सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे। रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमू रामाय तस्मै नमः। रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। श्रीराम जय जय राम ओम 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 जय जय राम ओम जय जय राम ओम। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। Hari Om everyone. We will chant the first 4 verses of Sadhana Panchakam. Vedo nityamadhiyatam taduditam karma swanushthiyatam tene shasya vidhiyatam apachitihi kamye matistyajyatam पापौघः परिधूयतां भवसुखे दोषोऽनुसन्धीयताम् आत्मेच्छा व्यवसीयतां निजगृहात् तूर्णं विनिर्गम्यताम् संगस्सत्सु विधीयतां भगवतो भक्तिर्दृढाधीयताम् शान्त्यादिः परिचीयतां दृढतरं कर्मासु सन्त्यज्यतां सद्विद्वानुपसृप्यतां प्रतिदिनं तत्पादुका सेव्यतां ब्रह्मैकाक्षरमर्त्यथां श्रुतिशिरो वाक्यं समाकर्ण्यताम् वाक्यार्थश्च विचार्यतां श्रुतिशिरः पक्षः समाश्रीयताम् दुस्तर्कात् सुविरम्यतां श्रुतिमतस्तर्कोऽनुसन्धीयताम् ब्रह्मास्मीति विभाव्यताम् अहरहर गर्वः परित्यज्यताम् देहेऽहं मतिरुज्झताम् बुधजनैर्वादः परित्यज्यताम् क्षुद्व्याधिश्च चिकित्स्यताम् प्रतिदिनं भिक्षौषधं भुज्यताम् स्वाद्वन्नं न तु याच्यताम् विधिवशात् प्राप्तेन सन्तुष्यताम् शीतोष्णादिविषह्यताम् न तु वृथा वाक्यं समुच्चार्यताम् औदासीन्यमभीप्स्यताम् जनकृपा नैष्ठुर्यमुत्सृज्यताम्. The fourth verse of Sadhana Panchakam, Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji is telling us how we can simplify our life and our personality. All the instructions about food, about speech, if we want to boil it down into a simpler sadhana, that sadhana is to simplify our life, simplify our personality. He says that will give us a lot of freedom at the mind level. It will give us a lot of time, all of which is important towards the goal that we want to work. So that was the sadhana where Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji said, be mindful about food and also the pairs of opposites that come. One at physical level, but also at mental level, praise and insult. Both of it, we should learn to be udasina, means lifting ourselves above those pairs of opposites, not getting stuck with them. And these sadhanas are such that they are applicable no matter where we are. I mean, which field we want to work towards. Either it is spiritual goal or even a secular goal. You'll realize all this sadhanas, the fourth verse in particular, is very helpful. For that matter, even if it's a student who is going to study at a university, all these four, the sadhanas mentioned in the fourth verse, they will be very helpful. Controlling food happens naturally sometimes because either there is lack of time or you just can't afford to eat a very heavy meal. It just naturally happens. But other sadhanas also are very important, like Shitoshnadi Vishahyatam, means in a critical decision-making situation, we cannot afford to react. Right? At work also, we must have seen, if we are in a position where we are supposed to take decisions, supposed to lead a group, be part of a group also, it takes time to make a point and also convince a point to anybody. So we cannot afford to, or we should be very, very mindful about what we say. Okay, natu vrutha vakyam samucharyatam. So that is the sadhana there. And also making sure that we don't get provoked very easily. Audasinya, what is given in some, according to some teachers, Bhagwan Shankaracharya also mentions in some places that there should be a lot of depth to our personality so that it doesn't get provoked by small, small things. And the last one, of course, Janakrupa Naishturyam Utsrujyatam, seeking help but not becoming overly dependent on anybody. So we had concluded the last class with this example. If we have joined a new place of work, so there everything is new at that point of time, right? We need to get familiar with the surroundings, the type of work, the people. So at that time, this sadhana is very effective. One is seeking help from people who are good, who are established in that place, but at the same time, developing our own roots. Making sure that we don't keep asking somebody for the same thing again and again. And if it's a good mentor that we have gotten, they themselves will tell us this fact. It's okay to make mistakes. Just think through your actions and then take a decision. If it is good, then you have learned something from your action, that if you do this, this will be a result. But if that result was not according to how we wanted, that is also another lesson. That is how I think we all grow in whichever field we are, by taking thoughtful decisions and standing behind those decisions. Whatever we have taken after thinking, after consulting everything, that decision should be firm. Consequences also will come, and that we should be ready to face. Janakrupa naishturyam utsrujyatam. Now this is a spiritual seeker now who is, going on this path. Fourth verse spoke about yati dharma. Yati dharma means one who is wandering, monk or a brahmachari. For them it becomes more strict, these sadhanas which are there. Now Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji again introduces the point of nididhyasanam and how a Jivan Mukta lives in this world. That is the fifth verse. We will chant it now. Ekante sukhamasyatam, ekante sukhamasyatam, paratare chetas samadhiyatam, paratare chetas samadhiyatam, purnatma susamikshatam, purnatma susamikshatam, jagadidam tadbadhitam drusyatam, jagadidam tadbadhitam drusyatam, prakkarma pravilapyatam, prakkarma pravilapyatam, chitibalannapyuttare shlishyatam, chitibalannapyuttare shlishyatam, prarabdham tviha bhujyatam, prarabdham tviha bhujyatam, atha parabrahmatmana sthiyatam, atha parabrahmatmana sthiyatam, ekante sukhamasyatam, paratare chetas samadhiyatam, purnatma susamikshatam, jagadidam tadbadhitam drusyatam, prakkarma pravilapyatam, chitibalannapyuttare shlishyatam, prarabdham tviha bhujyatam, ata parabrahmatmana sthiyatam. This verse again takes us back to the point of nididhyasanam, meditation practice. And meditation is one practice that Bhagwan says in Gita is unavoidable. He says that we should meditate with lot of enthusiasm and lot of patience, because he knows that for us it is not easy. So that is why this sadhana again comes back, ekante sukhamasyatam. In our day, we should find some time where we are by ourselves. And not somehow or the other by ourselves. We are happy by ourselves and we can think about something subtler in life. Ekante sukhamasyatam means we should enjoy solitude. Nobody is saying we should do it for 24 hours, long durations. At least in a day, if we can take out some time, depending on what our schedule is, where we exclusively focus on spiritual teaching, our understanding about spiritual teaching. And at least for that time, close all other distractions which might creep in, like our phone or an email, at least for that time. Again, it is not a practice, not practical if you say it is whole day. But we should protect that time which is for us. Appointment with Bhagwan. That is that time. And it should be a place which is clean, and it should be a place which is used for that same purpose every day. So it is helpful if we have an altar in our house, which is again clean, and also we sit in that place at a regular time and consistently. What happens with that is mind automatically gets trained to be quiet when you are in that place. In our own house, you must have noticed this, right? When you go to the kitchen, there are different kind of thoughts. When we go to the backyard, for example, there are different kinds of thoughts. When you go to the living room, there is a different thought process that happens. So surrounding has a lot of effect on our mind. For that matter, if you go to a temple, it is the same surrounding, it is made of Pancha Mahabhuta only, but it has lot of effect, a very different kind of effect on our mind. So in our house also, we should have a place which is like a temple and which is very sacred, such that when I go there, my mind automatically has auspicious thoughts and it is easier to control that mind. Otherwise, you can sit anywhere in the house, right? What is there? That is an advanced stage of sadhana. If mind can go there in any place, yatra yatra manoyati tatra tatra samadhayah is the culmination point of sadhana, not the beginning point. So we should do that in a way that we benefit from this practice. And sitting in one posture which is firm and steady. Sukham asyatam. Asyatam means go to that place and sit down. And asanam is such that if you get familiar, if we practice one particular asana, just sitting in that asana gives a lot of sukham. Initially, it's very painful to practice any asana, not advanced asana, just sukhasana if you want to practice. To sit in one posture gives a lot of joy. So much so that I have seen in myself, many of you must have also experienced, those who have habit of sitting down and doing Shravanam, by chance, if you sit on a chair and do Shravanam, it doesn't have the same effect. You don't feel like you have heard Vedanta. Because mind is trained to sit in one posture and do Shravanam. I'm not saying everybody should sit down and do Shravanam. Don't take me other way. What I'm trying to say is, having a fixed posture, a firm posture, that will help us in this practice of meditation. Either it is on the chair, on the ground, place should be the same. Ekante sukhamasyatam means let us carve out that space for ourselves, that time for ourselves in the day where we can be quiet. What should we do? Paratare chetas samadhiyatam. We should put our mind in Vedantic teaching. What is that? Vedantic teaching, what we heard in Shravanam time. I am that pure consciousness, limitless, unconditioned by this physical body. That is the supreme consciousness, Paratara. Paratara means that which is beyond Maya. Maya, sometimes the word used is Para. Paratara means that is above Maya Shakti also. Paratare chetah samadhiyatam. Let our mind get very well settled in that thought. Now, if somebody has done thorough Shravanam, they will have a lot of clarity about what should I meditate on. This fact, right, what I just mentioned, that my nature is consciousness and I'm not this physical body. That clarity will come from study, that clarity will come from Shravanam and Mananam. So that is the whole purpose, of doing this entire sadhana, doing the study groups, Shravanam. All of that is to get clarity about goal. But let us say somebody is not there yet. Somebody says, I've just started on the spiritual path, This could have been my first text that I'm studying. And it looks like a very far-fetched goal for me, sitting in one place, meditating on Brahman. I cannot do that yet. Is there any solution one level down? One level down doesn't mean it's an inferior solution. Huh? One level down means it's an easier solution with more support. That we should always clarify, because sometimes one level down, it seems like it's something, lower than the above one or something. Nothing like that. So the easier way is to focus our attention using one physical form. Our Gurudev, gave us this sadhana, actually speaking. In most of his biographies, you'll see, when he was a child, he used to do this, it is said. Looking at Bhagwan's form, closing our eyes and trying to bring the same form back. And gradually, as we see the result, right? We see that mind is becoming more single-pointed. I'm able to withdraw the mind from a lot of turbulent thoughts. It gives a lot of confidence. It gives a lot of conviction that I am on the right path. So that also we should do. And if we feel we are comfortable doing that, then we can move on to the next one. Next one means Vedantic meditation, which we directly do. So sometimes, this preparation is very helpful for us. And that form, which is, very dear to us, that form is easiest to focus our mind on. So either it is Bala Gopala or Bhagwan Rama's, Rama Parivara. Whichever Bhagwan's form is dearer to us, it will be easier for us to connect. Mind loves to go there where it has some connection. So that is again this sadhana, Ekante Sukhamasyatam Paratare Chetas Samadhiyatam. And some sadhaka who is ready to do Vedantic meditation, who has done Shravanam thoroughly, for that sadhaka, the advice is, what should I meditate on? Bhagwan again clarifies. Purnatma susamikshatam jagadidam tad baditam drushyatam. Meditate upon that illuminator of your thoughts, Atma, which is there. That same consciousness is all-pervading consciousness. It is Purnatma, not limited to one Sharira. Very minutely start observing this. Purnatma susamikshatam. Samikshatam means observe, internalize. Susamikshatam means very carefully do this. Because this consciousness is not another object where you can go and see it or, try to do something with it. It is right here. So it takes effort to bring mind back and focus on that illuminator of the mind. Purnatma susamikshatam is one part. Another part is jagadidam tad baditam drushyatam. Look at this world as that which is merely an appearance in this consciousness. What we generally call as Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Both these things have to go hand in hand. And more we have done our sadhana, more we have purified our mind, it will be easier for us to negate the mind. That mind which is purified, it won't have a lot of obstacles in owning up this fact that world is an appearance. First obstacle that will come is Vyavahara. Right when I say Jagat is Mithya, mind will bring up this thought and say, oh, what about Vyavahara? So this we should understand. Jagan Mithya and Vyavahara are not conflicting with each other. In what way? Mithyatva is just understanding what is the substratum. Adhishthana Jnanam is called as the way of doing badha of something. Adhisthana means substratum. Knowledge of that substratum with clarity, we'll be able to negate the thing which is appearing there. Transactions will happen in the same way as they have been happening and in the appropriate way that they should be happening. This is called Bada. Bada does not mean we are insisting on non-perception. What we are insisting on is knowing that the substratum of this entity is consciousness and not this name and form. Just for example, now it is Christmas time, right? And I go for a walk sometimes where I see all these deers which are there made out of that stick. And there is lighting there and everything. And at dusk time, if you go, in that semi-dark time, you feel like there is a deer standing there because you cannot see clearly with your eyes what is there. And that shape is so nicely made. Even the horns are made in a way that they look like real horns, and the proportion, everything is very nicely done. But when you go closer, you realize it is nothing but the stick. So what I call a deer is nothing but a word. And it is some form. There is no substance other than the stick, which I call as a deer. This is called as Bada. Means you are seeing the same thing, but you have understood the substratum. And with that substratum, you can still interact with that name and form. You can go and pet the deer or just appreciate how beautifully the person who has done this deer. But we won't get deluded by the fact and try to do something or bring the deer home to pet the deer or something. Because Adhisthana is clear that the substratum is only that stick. There is nothing else here other than those sticks. Now Darshtanta, this was an example. We should not get carried away with the deer. What is the main example? What is the main point? That when we look at this Jagat, understanding that Jagat has an Adhisthana, and that substratum is consciousness, which is my own true nature. That is how I'm all pervading, right? When I say, or when we say consciousness is all pervading, this is what we mean. That in the same consciousness, this entire creation is appearing. Now, Jagat, we should come closer and closer. Anytime we think about Jagat, it is easier to start with the farthest entity. Mountains, trees, those are safe entities to start with. We don't get too carried away. Not too much of struggle is there to say that those things are an appearance. We should come closer and closer. Come to our own house. Again, little closer. Don't get scared. You can come closer. This body, people around us. And finally, this ahankara also. And thoughts which are rising in this mind, everything is nothing but consciousness only appearing in different form. That is what we mean by Jagadidam tad baditam drushyatam. And if you have understood the word badha, our internal resistance of doing this sadhana should go down. What is the resistance? Oh, what will happen to nama rupa? What will happen to my vyavahara? Vyavahara will go on in the same way. This we see in Mahatmas also, right? Nothing different they started doing when it came to vyavahara. They also did the same thing, but there was a difference between us and them. And the difference was they did not seem to be swept away by vyavahara. They did not seem to be affected so much by vyavahara. What was the secret? Why do I get so much affected by vyavahara? So that is this sadhana. One level of not getting affected by vyavahara is making sure our transactions are pure. Making sure that we develop inner qualities, inner virtues that will go a long way in helping us not get affected by Vyavahara. And one level above that is to shift our identity to pure consciousness, which has been ever unaffected by Vyavahara. That is our true identity. Now, somebody might ask, this question, that in the third verse also you spoke about Nididhyasanam, right? You said, Brahmasmiti vibhavyatam, right? That verse when we saw about Shravana, after that Mananam came, after that Nididhyasanam also came. Now again, why you are bringing it back in the fifth verse? When we start doing this meditation practice of sitting in one place and thinking about these thoughts, right? We realize it is not easy. Again and again, our mind gets pulled away by other things. So then Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji pointed out to us where we should pay attention. How can we simplify our Vyavahara and personality? I'm using the word Vyavahara. I hope that meaning is clear. Vyavahara means our daily transactions, what we do from morning till evening. That is what we call as Vyavahara. So all our Vyavahara, while we are interacting, how to simplify it and how to not get affected by it too much. That was verse number 4. He said about hunger, food, how to simplify that, how to handle pairs of opposites, speech, how to be careful. All of these things together will contribute towards that practice of meditation. That is why Vyavahara is as though sandwiched between Brahmasmiti vibhavyatam and Ekante sukhamasyatam. Two Nididhyasanam practices, but in between that, I realize it is not easy to do that. Right? So then Bhagwan says, pay attention to these things, it will become easier. And what to meditate on, that we just saw, that I am that all-pervading consciousness, and this world, including this ahankara, is an appearance in that consciousness, shifting our identity. Then comes how a Jivan Mukta Purusha lives in this world. Prak karma pravilapyatam chitibalan napyuttare shlishyatam. When this knowledge takes place, first thing what the knowledge does is, it removes the karta. Removes means what? Again, does badha. It negates the doer who is there in us. Example given in our Shastra is just like a rope that has been burnt. The shape is there, the name is also there, but if you touch it, it is just, nothing but ashes. So for a Jivan Mukta Purusha, their ahankara is like that. Just burnt through knowledge. Knowledge tells me that in consciousness, ahankara cannot appear with the same degree of reality. Just like in desert sand, mirage water cannot appear. If I see it, it is only, adhyasa. It is only a superimposition. I just have to gain clear knowledge that I am ever unaffected by this ahankara. So when ahankara or karta, the doer is gone, the results of actions which were supposed to come to this doer, they are also burnt. That is how Vedanta removes karma bandhana. What we generally know as 3 types of karma, right? One is sanchita karma, that cloud, I like to call it the cloud, which is accumulated of all our past actions. So many actions are stored there, or results of actions are stored there, and chunk of it is taken out for this birth. So all the experiences that we are to get in this birth, starting with this physical body, which body we will get, which surrounding we will be born in, who will be our relatives. Remember, all these things we have not chosen. Neither did we choose the body, neither did we choose our relatives. all of that is from prarabdha karma. An elaboration of this Bhagwan says in 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, but we should just understand the the basic philosophy behind these karmas. So one is sanchita karma, another is prarabdha, taken out of that sanchita, which is responsible for various experiences that we will have in this body. And it is not that there is one thing which is up there and there is one thing which has already started giving result. We are also accumulating new karmas. That is called as agami karma. So knowledge will remove all three karmas. Why? Because karta has been burnt. I'm using the word burnt because in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagwan says in that way. Bhasmasat kurute Arjuna, jnanagni sarva karmani. All karmas are burnt by this knowledge, but we should understand how it is burnt. Karmas are not burnt directly, kartrutva is burnt. Kartrutva is understood as false. Then all karmas are not going to affect this person now. Because what is his primary identity? I am Brahma, not this karta. So that is the power of knowledge. And there is no other way of freeing ourselves of karma bandhana. This bondage of karma, we don't know what is stored in this sanchita karma that will come. So knowledge is that which frees us from this karma bandhana. Prak karma pravilapyatam. Although it is said as one should do this, but what it means is when knowledge happens, this thing will happen on its own. So we should strive to get clear knowledge. Chitibalat napyuttarai shlishyatam. Whatever experiences are going to come in the future, this jnani on the strength of knowledge is not affected by those karmas. Means that knowledge is very clear, I am not karta. And that jnani will use that ahankara, will use that kartrutva to do actions, but he will not be affected by the results of those actions. And in Tattva Bodha we saw that those karmas of a jnani which are sat karma, they go to people who worship that jnani. And other way also Bhagwan writes, actually jnani will never end up doing that karma also, papa karma. But he says those who criticize the jnani or those who give sorrow in terms of whatever their idea is or things like that. So it is said all other karmas go to them. But main thing we should understand is what is this Jivan Mukti that is being spoken about here. Because that word itself is very contradictory. Jivan means that which is having desire to stay or having desire to live, that is called Jivan. And Mukti means one who is liberated. So how can somebody have Jivanam also and have Mukti also? So it is said Jivanam is from other standpoint. When we look at a jnani, it is from our standpoint, we feel that this jnani has a physical body and is performing so many actions and so on. From their standpoint, they are Nitya Mukta. They have once understood the nature of truth, they will never identify with body again and not even feel that they have this Jivanam which is going on. So Jivan Mukti is made for it's a very nice term. We had this discussion when we were studying, during the course. Swamiji had brought it up. But it is just to understand the fact that prarabdha karma will appear even after knowledge has taken place, but only from other standpoint, not from jnani standpoint. Because prarabdha is always for ahankara, not for atma. Right? So it is said that is how a Jivan Mukta lives, not affected by previous karmas and not also affected by the karmas which are going to come. Prarabdham tviha bhujyatam. He will also go through prarabdha. In Manisha Panchakam it is said, prarabdhaya samarpitam swavapuhu. Means this body that Jnani has offered it to prarabdha. Means he is least bothered about what is going to happen to me. You know, that is the stage. Taponji Maharaj, if you look at his life, right, that is a perfect example of that particular line. Prarabdhaya samarpitam swavapuhu. Means if Samashti wants that body to live, that body to continue, Swamiji used to say, Taponji Maharaj, that Bhagwan will arrange for things. For them, there is no prayojanam now of that body. That's a very exalted state. You know, prarabdham tuha bhujyatam. But if you want to look at it more transactionally, having faith that right things will happen if we do the right actions. If we can take care of karma phala is already taken care of. Because Bhagwan is there to make sure, right, that we are getting the right results of action. And what we have done in the past, we don't have control over. So that will present itself in today's time. But I do have a lot of freedom to respond today. I have a lot of freedom to act in a certain way so that my future karma phalas are taken care of. And knowledge will tell me that I am not this karta also. I don't have to become karta because I am always of the nature of consciousness. Both things should be clear in our mind. And it is not that, you know, when somebody studies Vedanta, they will start doing adharma. That question also comes sometimes. Oh, you are saying you are not the doer. Does that mean you can do whatever you want? No, because this person has done a lot of sadhana. This sadhana comes in 39th instruction of Sadhana Panchakam. He has started from Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam. Person who has thoroughly done that, they will not be too much, you know, caught up by those things. And dharma will become their nature itself. They don't have to do dharma. Whatever they do will be dharma. Vasishtha Maharaj tells Bharatji this thing in Ramayana. Bharatji goes and asks Vasishtha Maharaj, Vasishtha Rishi, that, oh teacher, I want to stay in certain, you know, way until Bhagwan comes back. He has gone for Vanvas in 14 years. I want to live in certain way. Can I have your approval for that? And Vasishtha ji tells Bharatji, Bharatji, you don't even have to ask me, because whatever you do, that will be the norm. Because your mind is so pure, whatever you do, that will be the dharma. So when one does that, comes the last instruction, Atapara Brahmatmana Sthiyatam. Means mind has been soaked in this knowledge of Brahman such that it starts reveling in Brahman. There are two stages, you know. One is to have Brahma Jnanam. Another is to have Brahma Jnana Rati. Rati means reveling. In devotional language, it is said, knowing Bhagwan, having love for Bhagwan. Another is reveling in Bhagwan. So that is this last sadhana, Ata Parabrahmana Sthiyatam. Means mind has been so well settled there that it doesn't find any other thing attractive. It is interacting in the same way. And in some Mahatmas, it is not even that. It has gone above that, where their interaction also has been minimalized. And mind is just reveling in that thought of their own true nature. So this sadhaka, if you remember, where did he start? Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam. started from doing Vedic chanting. Then karmas were done, we were doing our daily actions, daily duties. Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji said, there is a way to divinize that action. Make it as a flower of worship towards Bhagavan. Same actions, mindset has changed, attitude has changed. And with that, I'm recapping now, entire Sadhana Panchakam. That mind which has become purer, it starts seeking something higher. It becomes free from day-to-day, worries and anxieties. It has found a new support with which it starts seeking something higher. And more we have strength in Bhagwan, more we have devotion in Bhagwan, Bhagavato Bhaktir Dudhadhiyatam, less we are anxious. So in such a mind, when this jijnasa comes, when this desire comes to know something higher, that mind, it is said, don't, struggle to find solution, go to a teacher and study Vedanta. And there are many questions which don't come to us on our own. Although we keep saying in Vedanta, we should ask all these great questions. What is Atma? What is Anatma? We should see for ourselves. We never got these questions. But it is the greatness of this teaching. They themselves will introduce those questions and tell us, this is how we should think. What is the purpose of life? Many of us get those questions, but it is not in the same way or with the same intensity with which it should come. So with that, when this seeker goes to a teacher, a lot of preparation has already been done. Teacher gives Upadesha of Mahavakya. Before that, Japa sadhana also is done so that mind becomes more single-pointed. That is the best sadhana, Japa, to focus our mind. Then Shravanam is done, Mahavakya teaching is done. Then there are doubts that come, so Mananam is done on that. Reflecting upon how this Mahavakya has to be understood. How am I Brahman? Lot of doubts come. Those doubts are resolved. But being careful that we don't use erroneous logic, we use logic which is in line with Shastra. When doubts are cleared, making sure we sit down and do Nididhyasanam on what we have conviction in. What we have heard in Shravanam, what we have conviction in, on that we do Nididhyasanam. But it's not that easy. Even Shravanam sometimes doesn't happen thoroughly. So Bhagavan says, let us be alert in our Vyavahara. And both things, when they go simultaneously, we ourselves start feeling that I'm getting to understand things now. Everything is becoming clear like a painting. Earlier, there were just some random strokes. Now the picture is becoming more clearer. What is Vedanta trying to tell me? And with that, when the sadhaka does sadhana and gets clarity of knowledge, that which is his own nature all the time. Remember in the first class we had discussed, sadhana is not to produce Atma. Sadhana is not to produce consciousness also. It is already there, but it is not available to me. So sadhana will remove all the obstacles. Pratibandha it is called. What is already there will become available to me. Available so clearly that I cannot miss it. Hastamalaka, like Avla fruit kept on the hand. That much clarity will come, and with Bhagwan's grace it will come. So we pray to Bhagwan that we had this great opportunity to study Sadhana Panchakam. May we keep studying it again and again. It's like a mirror. Anytime we feel something is, needs adjustments, we should keep Sadhana Panchakam as the mirror and go back and see which sadhana I can pay more attention to. And we seek Bhagwan's grace that may we not only study these sadhanas, but also get inspired to do them. No matter how long it takes to get inspired, we have to get inspired and start doing some of these sadhanas. So we'll pause here. And as you all know, there is a break for 3 weeks We'll resume back on January 9th. Until then, if you want to reflect on this text, right? Of course, you can chant it, reflect on the meaning. All videos also will be uploaded on YouTube. What we can do is take at least one new sadhana that has really appealed to us in this text, which we have not been doing it before. It could be as simple as doing Vedic chanting or chanting some, Prakarana Grantha, Bhagavad Gita, one chapter every day. One new sadhana. Huh? If you've already been doing that, you can take something else. Okay, so with that, we'll conclude. And there are a couple of questions we will take after the announcements. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So there's some questions from the last time. How to increase our bhakti in Bhagwan in today's age? There are several ways we can look at this. And one is to see what do we mean by devotion to Bhagwan. In simple words, it is faith in Bhagwan, right? Having Shraddha in Bhagwan, that is what we call as bhakti. And there are a lot of practices which will help us do that, right? We have puja, japa. When we take Bhagwan's name, it builds a kind of relationship with Bhagwan. And Shraddha is always bhava pradhana. It is not logic, not that it is illogical, but the main essence of bhakti is in using our heart more. But another way for us to increase our faith in Bhagwan is to look at our own life experiences. There have been so many situations which we have come out of in the past, where we had no clue how we are going to find our way out. And we might have even sought Bhagwan's help, but later on forgotten about it. Most of the times it happens. We should see for ourselves that when the result comes, the desired result comes, there is a chance of forgetting who brought that result. So when we go back in our life and see for ourselves that help has come to me from known and unknown sources in such a way that I was brought out of those situations. So when that happens more and more, our faith in Bhagwan grows deeper, should grow deeper. So it's a reflection activity where we can just sit down and look back at our life and see at how it has shaped, how one thing has transformed into another, and how things have worked out for us to grow in life. That if we can acknowledge Bhagwan's grace, Bhagwan's hand, that should help us deepen our faith in Bhagwan. And second is, when we understand that our hands are tied, when we understand our limitations in the smallest thing that we do in our life, we cannot but have faith in Bhagwan. Let us say there is a program at home, right? There is some event, some function is there, marriage or something is there. Can we say on our strength that everything will go well? That it will go on smoothly? Can we make that claim just on our strength? We realize there are so many people who have to contribute. There are so many things that have to fall in place for this one event to go on smoothly. So when we realize that limitation of our as an individual, we'll become more humble and we'll realize that there is a controller here. Somebody who is not passively sitting, but actively shaping my life, interfering in my life. So if I can invoke and seek Bhagwan's strength in the smallest things that we do, right, then our devotion will grow deeper. Now we have to see, in our day, how many things can we accomplish just on our own strength. And remember, devotion is not telling us we should not work or we should not put forth our effort, right? It is only telling us, in addition to our effort, which is also by Bhagwan's grace, we need many other things to happen. So those things, when we dwell, it will become a very thorough and deeper understanding of Bhagwan's role in our life. Okay. Means mentally shifting our ashraya in Bhagwan. What Bhagwan said here, Bhagavato bhaktir dudadhiyatam. Everything else is going on in the same way that it has been going on before. But this is a new strength now to deal with the same situation. This is a similar question in the same line. So when I pray, I always ask Bhagwan for some help, either for my family and friends. I do understand that Bhagwan is all-knowing, means he knows what we need and he will take care of it. But I'm not sure if somehow, if it is some kind of fear that makes us ask always for something to Bhagwan. Asking Bhagwan's help makes me feel better. Should we stop asking things from Bhagwan always? This is where we should seek support from Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagwan clearly says he has 4 types of devotees. First type is, let us start from the best ones. He says, Jnanis are there who are also my devotees, who are realized masters, but they also have a lot of love for Saguna Brahma. Then there are those who are curious, Jijnasu, who are sadhakas, who want something from Bhagwan for spiritual purpose. They are also devotees. Then there are those devotees who are in dire need of help. Some situation might be there where they need Bhagwan's help very badly. Generally, the example given is of Gajendra, that elephant who was caught by that crocodile. He sought help from Bhagwan. So those are 3 types. But the 4th type is Artharthi, one who wants something from this world. The next line is beautiful. Bhagwan says all these 4 devotees are great devotees. Why are they great? First 2 we can understand, right? Jnani, we can understand they are not having any desire, yet they are devoted to Bhagwan. Jijnasu is asking for sadhana chatushtaya or some kind of spiritual quality. Third one is Artha Bhakta, one who wants, because he's very badly in need, that is why he's asking help. But why does Bhagwan say Artharthi, one who wants something from the world also? That person also is a great devotee. One of the thing what Bhagwan says there is that if we have sought ashraya in Bhagwan, that itself is a great step in our sadhana. Means if you want something in life, asking it from Bhagwan alone, not anybody else. It takes a lot of confidence. It takes a lot of depth in devotion to do that. Because no matter how much we do it, we always feel it is incomplete. What is incomplete? When we have asked Bhagwan for something, we feel that is not enough. I need to ask from somebody else. So we should understand here what is our main ashraya. If it is Bhagwan, even for worldly thing, Bhagwan says it is okay if we ask from him, and we should ask only from him. Okay. All right. There was another question about mantra japa. I'll quickly go through it. If there is a longer mantra, right, that somebody might have gotten Diksha in and they do that japa regularly, the question is, should I do that japa throughout the day or some different one? I think this is in the context of remembering Bhagwan's name throughout the day. What if that mantra that we are chanting is a long mantra? Like some might be doing japa of Gayatri mantra. So now Gayatri mantra is such a longer than Bhagwan's one line mantra, right? Om Namah Shivaya, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. So Gayatri mantra is longer than that. So if I have to repeat throughout the day, what should I do? Should I take a name or should I take this? So here again, the fundamental idea of repetition is the closeness we have with that mantra. One is practical reason. If it is shorter, it is easier for us to do it. If it is longer, then it becomes a little difficult. So if there is one form that we can relate to, that name we can take. If it is some kind of anusthana that we are doing, even if we are doing that mantra japa 108 times or how many ever times, but throughout our day, it will be easier if it's a shorter one. But that closeness should be there. Huh? That is the main point. And most importantly, we should understand it is not different things that we are doing japa of. It is the same Bhagwan worshipped through that mantra and same Bhagwan through this smaller name also. Right? So it is in that way we can look. So recordings will be put online shortly. Our sevaks are working hard on labeling them. It is easier to navigate, if you label everything and put it up there. So it should be available in few days. Is prarabdha karma just from the current birth? No, prarabdha karma is that which is operating in the current birth. Prarabdha karma is that which is responsible for the experiences in the current birth. It is what is done in current birth is called as agami karma. Prarabdha is what has already started. Sanchita is what has not yet started. It is in the cloud only. Does Sanchita karma also include anything from parents, young children, ancestors, etc.? So what I'm understanding from this question is, when we go back to what is the scope of Sanchita karma, does it include all these things? So generally, all these things are included in prarabdha. In this life, whatever I have to experience, whatever situations come, whatever relationships are there, whichever body we get, those are prarabdha karma taken from Sanchita only, but only for this life. Okay. So recording of Sadhana Panchakam verses, I will try to put it in the Taittiriya Upanishad folder, what we use for chanting. So whoever wants can take it from there. I will record all the 5 verses and put it up there. Okay. Last question I'll take here. How to burn Sanchita karma? How to burn Sanchita karma? There is only one way. This you can imprint wherever you want to imprint, either in your book or mind. Other than knowing nature of truth and knowing that karta is an appearance in that consciousness, there is no other way of burning Sanchita karma. So what is one line answer? How to burn Sanchita karma? Study Vedanta, get clear knowledge. Okay, that is the only way. All right, Hari Om everyone. Look forward to seeing you all in the evening for the Gita chanting. And I also hope those who have youngsters, children, or youngsters in that age group, it's a wider age from 15 to 45. I might be missing the age group, I think it is 25 or something for that camp. So you can check it online, that age group is there. But what I wanted to say was, it's going to a very sadhana oriented camp for youngsters and a lot of practical tips on how to deal with the mind. Okay, so I look forward to seeing all of them there. And there are a lot of, as Jignesh Bhai said, a lot of fun-filled activities that are being planned throughout the day, so they are doing that. So I look forward to seeing all of them there. Hari Om. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om.